So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual HS2 series. I am delighted today to have with us joint venture Balfour Beatty Vinci, BBV, where they're going to share different areas of the business, including engineering, logistics, resourcing, and of course, our very own success story and Royal Engineer, Phil Bradley. So I'm really excited today. Can you tell? A little bit excited. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to say, sit back, enjoy, and I give you our CEO, Angela Forbes. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Caroline. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our virtual career chat. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all back in the height of some wonderful weather. So for many, I hope your staycations are planned, be it camping, glamping or caravanning throughout the incredible scenery across the UK. So I do hope some of you are watching this outside, soaking up the good weather and feeling the incredible benefits that nature brings on both our well-being and mental health. So please try and find time today to take a moment. And whilst you're doing that, you may see our very own Mrs. Bear Grylls, hiker extraordinaire, running in and out of the bushes in our lycra. So for those that don't know, Caroline led the Build Force team for Armed Forces Day on Saturday with her epic trek across 3 counties. So a massive congratulations to Caroline and to our very able veteran volunteers who took it all in their stride. So I believe the next event was discussed over celebratory drinks that evening. Now, as part of our HS2 appointment, we have this timetable of virtual career chats to introduce you to all the tier 1s working on the project. And we are absolutely delighted to be chatting to BBV this morning. So BBV are the joint venture made up of Balfour Beatty and Vinci, who are an incredible partnership and one of industry's strongest and most successful, with a portfolio including Crossrail, Channel Tunnel and the vast highways project. So all your meaty infrastructure, your complex engineering and the most challenging of construction projects is where you will find them, and it's where they thrive. Now, their 80-kilometre scope on HS2 is enough to knock one's socks off. So here to discuss this further are members of their team. So we'll hear from 5 speakers this morning. Managing Director of BBV, the incredible Michael Dyke, and Build Force Enabler, I might add. Ashley Clark, our recruitment team leader, veteran Michael Hannam, logistics manager, their construction director, Peter Rigby, and Build Force mentor, and one of our own success stories, as Caroline has said, Phil Bradley. So I am delighted to pass to Michael this morning to kick us off, and we'll all turn our cameras off. Michael.
Angela, Caroline, thank you so much for welcoming me today on behalf of Balfour Beatty Vinci, and thank you for such a gracious introduction. It makes me feel very humble when I think about what we're doing and the power of what we bring. But as we know, we're as good as today, and in a similar way to Angela introducing and reminding us, should I say, about the importance of keeping safe and well. I'm just hot-footing between conferences at the moment, where I'm actually with the Balfour Beatty Major Projects team, looking at the future as we see it. And it comes as no great surprise. Everyone that knows me knows that I'll always bang on about health and safety and well-being first. And I introduced the conference just 45 minutes ago on that very subject. So Angela, I hope you too are getting some time outdoors this morning. If we think about BBV is a joint venture of 30 years plus standing now. And as Angela's described, some very complex, the most complex infrastructure challenges across the UK and outside have been tackled by us together. And Vinci, for those that may not know, is a sort of multidisciplinary, very broad infrastructure and transportation group, which extends way beyond just building things, but actually owning and operating and running assets and networks and the like, and operating globally. Balfour Beatty, a traditional UK construction organisation for over 100 years, but in particular with a strong specialism in the UK market, the United States market, and Hong Kong. And I think when those two come together, as Angela says, the combination is very potent, it's very powerful. We don't ever want to be regarded as arrogant, but we are probably pound for pound about as big as it gets, and we believe we are about as good as it gets. And that means that we treat every day with real seriousness, because we're only interested in doing things properly once. We don't have time to revisit and do things 2 or 3 times over, and therefore we need to make sure we have a right first time mentality. And ultimately, the people that we bring onto the programme must have that mentality. Do it well, do it once, and move on at speed. Now, if we think about the size and the scale of what we describe as Area North, as Angela mentioned, we're actually just over 90 clicks running from South Warwickshire in a place called Southam, all the way up into Birmingham, and we sort of skew off to the left. We then hunt down the centre of Birmingham through an enormous viaduct, which will be probably the largest of its kind in the UK for the best part of a century. And we will then head right into the heart of Birmingham into Curzon Street, and equally we will then loop back out. It's a little bit of I suppose, a sideways Y, and we loop back out, and then we start hunting down the West Coast Mainline, and we join that up in a place called Fradley. So it's an enormous trace. We move through pretty much the whole of Warwickshire. We go deep into Birmingham, and then we scoot out up towards Staffordshire. And I think the particular thing that is of interest for us is not only the massive challenge that we have today, and I'll talk more about that in a sec, but also the fantastic position that we occupy if we do well today for tomorrow, given the fact that stage 2A of HS2 has just been granted royal assent. And as far as we're concerned, we take nothing for granted, but we see this as our shop window to not only meet and beat our programme to be substantially complete by the end of 2026, but we have intentions of being around for a lot longer as HS2 builds further into the northern parts of the UK, starting with Crewe and Manchester, and then onwards to Leeds, and ultimately we hope beyond up into maybe an area not so far from where Angela is. Now, in terms of the size and scale, for those that like numbers and facts and stats, I can bore you to death with lots of them, but I guess it's quite topical to think about football at the moment. Sorry, Angela, if you're not Scottish, but the interesting thing to note is that we think about Wembley National Stadium. For those that enjoy figures, Wembley National Stadium has about 100,000 cubic metres of concrete in it. It's a heavily concrete reinforced structure. And it's not so dissimilar, for those that like rugby, to Stade de France. And given we are 50-50 Balfour Beatty Vinci, we like to try and have a nod to both sides of the channel. Balfour Beatty Vinci, in our particular route, must construct 18 Wembley National Stadiums. 1.8 million cubic metres of concrete, which in anybody's book is quite a lot. If we think about that, it could alternatively be 9 Wembley National Stadiums and 9 Stade de France, but it's enormous. And we have to be in a world of up to 1,000 cubic metre concrete single pours, which means that logistically we have to be brilliant. We have to have backup facilities in case something goes wrong or something gets stuck, because once we start, we can't stop until we're finished. And with the right first time mentality, we have to be right. And it's a really lovely challenge. I think we're going to move somewhere between, I think it's the latest number is about 40 million cubic metres of muck, something like 21 million cubic metres of cut and 19 million cubic metres of fill, not to mention all the temporary stuff that we do along the way as well. And as we sit here today, we're mobilising probably across about 25 locations to date. We will be fully mobilised in no less than 140 locations up and down the line. And I guess in true good planning and logistical senses, we have 7 hubs, which basically span the bottom and the top, and we then radiate out from those hubs in clusters. So that's really, I guess, the size and scale of the scheme. You're probably thinking to yourself, so how do I get at this? Well, part of our alliance with Buildforce, which goes back personally for much longer than just this particular assignment, is to make sure that we are a good neighbour and we build fantastic relationships with stakeholders. It's actually not just a nice to have, it's a fundamental that we need and we must deploy at every turn within High Speed 2. We've actually made commitments, as the government has received those commitments from High Speed 2 in terms of skills, employment and education. And Shilpi Akbar works with me and is responsible to me for that and making sure we keep our promises within Balfour Beatty Vinci. And I'm delighted to say we are ahead of our promises at the moment and we don't intend to turn backwards. But what that means is that as we start to build out this enormous programme, which has an initial sticker price of north of £6 billion, which is dated at 2019. So you can imagine inflation kicks in as well. In order to get this programme delivered substantially complete by the end of 26, with a bit of work running into 2027, we need to have at peak between 8 and 9,000 people. That's the kind of range. We're still settling that down because we've been through a very comprehensive reprogramming exercise recently. So understanding precisely that number is still a little bit fluid. But what we know for sure is that over the next 12 months, we need an additional 1,000 people. We currently have 1,300 staff alone on the project. And bearing in mind, we came from a standing start last April. We've mobilised, we're now up in the air, we're flying at 30,000 feet. Wingtips are level and the trajectory is set. Our job now is to land the thing on a sixpence in about 5 or 6 years' time. So that's our challenge, and we can only do that with people whilst also being a good neighbour. So 1,000 opportunities, I believe, in or about the next 12 months. And we also have a hard commitment to offer 4,000 days of work placement over the duration of the programme, which takes us out to the back end of 2026 primarily. So there's an enormous opportunity here. And, we know that we're nothing without our people. And that starts with me. And you will hear more today from Peter, from Michael and Phil, in terms of ultimately what it's like to work at Balfour Beatty Vinci and to interact with Balfour Beatty Vinci, because as existing veterans, they will actually explain more about the mentoring scheme that we offered too. From a personal perspective, notwithstanding the stuff that I did with Angela years ago, when we first got into the origins of Balfour's, I've spent time at Skanska and the military recruitment campaigns that we ran there to great success. And what makes me particularly pleased is to know that in just a small few weeks more, we'll be bringing one of those really talented individuals across from Skanska into Balfour Beatty Vinci for, as I describe it, the main event. It's the biggest event. And when I come back to finishing where I started, I talked earlier about the scale and size of Balfour Beatty and Vinci individually. So you can imagine collectively it's enormous. This particular programme is the largest single programme they have ever taken globally anywhere in the world in their entire existence. So from my perspective, as those that know me, I enjoy a challenge. I run towards them rather than shy away from them. This is about as big as it gets, and it's a great place to be. And I can't emphasise that we need the very best people. The kind of people we need to close is to have people with a right first time mentality, a type of person who can cope with complexity, ambiguity and uncertainty, because believe you me, there's a whole chunk of that as we try to navigate our way skillfully through the countryside whilst taking our stakeholders with us. We need to have people who effectively can operate in an interdependent way, recognising that the nature of this programme is unique, and it is physically broken down into 8 vertical sublots, which are basically geographical areas that sit alongside one another. But in order to drive consistency, to drive efficiency and to drive quality across the entire programme, to make sure that everything sits as one integrated rail at the end, we have to operate a sort of an efficient and effective matrix, which is very lean, but it does mean that you've got to realise that in doing your vertical bit, you have an interdependency on the thing that cuts across. And thus far, in our first year, we've done very nicely to actually bring that to life. It's still a work in progress, but enabling our sublots and most importantly, our delivery teams on the ground to deliver fantastically well first time is my #1 priority, and making sure that I do nothing and put as few speed bumps between them and me to make sure they get what they need to go to work. The final thing I would like to say is that the reason I'm particularly interested in talking to yourselves this morning and my team talking to you beyond is because one thing I know for certain in my small level of interactions with the military, particularly through friends and colleagues over the years, is the production mindset. And that's what we must have in absolute spades, a production mindset which is effectively disciplined and not accepting of drift and deviation from procedure and policy, because ultimately when we put a railway into service with trains travelling over 300 kilometres an hour, we simply cannot afford for something to have gone wrong at the very earliest stage when we were putting foundations into the ground, building segmental viaducts or putting in more big assets. So with that being the case, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of the team now, and Angela, I'll pass back to you and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Michael, that's incredible. Thank you very much. And if I could ask your colleague Ashley to join us. Thank you, Michael.
Hello everyone, thank you Michael. I'll make sure hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So my name is Ashley Clark. I am recruitment team leader for Balfour Beatty Vinci. So I sit within the recruitment team supporting the recruitment of people to produce this incredible project. And so I'm going to do a quick presentation for you to kind of give you an overview of the project and also to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking for and how you can get involved. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see. Spare just 1 second. Okay, right. So what is High Speed 2? So I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people are fully aware of what High Speed 2 is, but this is just to kind of give you a quick overview of what the actual project is, how it's involved, and also to kind of give you a bit more of scope for the future. So if we look at High Speed 2, so largest infrastructure scheme in the whole of Europe, so incredibly significant. As Michael said, we've got some of the biggest players supporting this project with Balfour Beatty and Vinci, and this is the biggest thing that we've ever done as organisations. So it is the biggest show in town. So it's something that definitely that people really want to be involved with. So if we look at this project, so we're going to be constructing a line all the way from London, Euston, all the way up into North Staffordshire. This is split into 4 joint ventures. We have SCS, so Skanska, Costain and Strabag down in London. We have a line joint venture supporting the central sections, which is Bouygues, Sir McAlpine and Volker Fitzpatrick. And then we have EFKB, so Eiffage, Ferrovial, Kia and BAM Nuttall supporting the central as well. And then we have our section, which is Balfour Beatty Vinci, which is the northern sections. And as you can see within this project, it's the connections of what's going to be coming after this. So after we've done with Birmingham, we're going to be looking into the the northwest. We're going to be looking towards the East Midlands, inevitably connecting up to the north and into Scotland. So as you can see, we've got 553 kilometres of new track, 73 kilometres of tunnels. So it's an incredible project to be a part of, and it's going to make a massive difference to people travelling around the UK. So who are BBV and what is Area North IPT? So IPT stands for Integrated Project Team. So with all the joint ventures I worked with in the past, it's a new thing for me where, of course, the actual client is part of the actual project team. So of course they have representatives, but in this we are one joint venture, we are one collaborative unit. So as you can see there, we have Balfour Beatty, the Vinci Group, and also HS2. We all sit together and work together collaboratively. So as we can see, this is the split. So it's a 50-50 joint venture. We have Balfour Beatty on one side with 50%. So one of the UK's leading construction civil engineering organisations. We have the Vinci Group, so one of the largest construction organisation in the world. And supporting Vinci Group, we have the 3 sister organisations: Vinci Construction, Grand Projet. So what they do is they are France's major projects division. We have Vinci Construction UK, also known as Taylor Woodrow, so the UK civil engineering arm, and then Vinci Construction Terrassements, which is the earthworks section of Vinci. And then also supporting the design, we have something called the design joint venture, so DJV, which is Mott MacDonald and Sistra, so 2 of the world's leading design consultancies. So this is the project setup. So as it was discussed by Michael, we split this down into what we call sublots. Each sublot itself is a major project. So, each sublot is, in value, anywhere between 350 million to 500 million per section. So it's massively vast, incredibly diverse. We have 3 pillars of work. So we have major structures, which is in the Delta Junction and the Spur, and also sublot 4, which is the large viaduct leading into Birmingham. But if you can see in the middle of that project on that map, you can see a little bit of a triangle. That is the Delta there. We're constructing 2 twin bore tunnels using earth pressure balanced tunnel boring machines. The first one is right at the start of the project in Itchington Wood, in the actual start project for us, connecting to Peter's area, sublot 2A. And then we have the actual mainline work, so the actual creation of the mainline, so significant earthworks, new highways works, also structures as well that we're putting into place. So very diverse. Anything that a civil engineering company does as an organisation, we are doing. So it's a fantastic, as you can see, it's really diverse, and it allows you to develop in so many different areas. And also we have the core functions supporting us. So we have commercial, project controls, environmental, health and safety, logistics. So, you know, there is so many opportunities to be a part of this project. This kind of gives you like a bit of an overview of where our compounds are from the start of the, so, you know, we've got, as you can see, we've got compounds popping up all the time. But as we can see right down the bottom, we have Longhole Wood, which is our tunnel sections, all the way going through the project. So there's opportunities to be based across multiple locations, but there's locations popping up every day, it seems. This is just like a little bit of an overview to actually show the quantities of what we're doing. So a 90-kilometre stretch of work that we're doing, which is a big old section. So we've got 40 million square meters of cubic meters of bulk earthworks that we're moving. As you can see, a lot of structural concrete and reinforced steel, constructing 7 kilometers worth of tunnels, which are challenging in themselves, where, you know, for example, Longhole Wood is pretty much in the middle of a field. That's the best way to put it. And then we're constructing an alternative tunnel in the Bromford area, which is a logistically challenging tunnel because we're constructing it in a very logistically challenging area, which is pretty much central Birmingham, with a lot of stakeholders such as Highways England, Network Rail. So we have to be very careful and have to really, as Michael said, you know, building good relationships with the local authorities and local communities, and being a good neighbour is really important. We're also constructing 36 viaducts, and 69 overbridges and 56 underbridges. So plenty to be doing, plenty to be involved with there. And in other words, within earthworks, we could fill Wembley 40 times. And with looking at reinforced steel that we're looking to install, it can wrap around the world 2.5 times. So why work with us? Because, you know, you've got so many opportunities there. The skill set that you have is highly desirable. But why, you know, why us? So we're delivering the largest infrastructure project in Europe. So to be a part of that is an incredible opportunity. We have an incredibly diverse workforce from people across the world, from different communities with different backgrounds, different, you know, working on small projects, working on major projects, looking at innovative ways to work. So what you would learn is, you know, it's worth its weight in gold, because the people that are here will really give you the time to actually, you know, for you to understand what, you know, how you can develop as an individual. We have some of the most talented and innovative team members within the whole of the infrastructure sector. And I know that's a big, you know, that's quite a big statement, but it is true. If we look at the people in here, they are asking, well, we are the biggest project, so we need to do things differently. We need to leave a legacy, and we need to set an example for the construction industry and look at innovative ways to make sure that we are leaving that legacy for the construction industry. So there's some technically gifted people on this project. We offer fantastic career development and opportunities working within a very talented team. You know, so as I said, you've got structures, you've got highways, you've got tunnels, you've got earthworks, you've got drainage, and then you've got, so you've got ecology, you've got logistics, you've got health and safety, you've got commercial, so you've got quantity surveying, you've got project controls and planning. So what we allow is, okay, right, well, you want to strengthen your skills, so let's talk, let's see how we can get you to where you want to be, or actually just want to have a conversation to see, well, I'm not sure what I want to do. But what we can do is we can give you we can say, well, these are looking at your skill set, this is where we can get you to. And also, you know, just to put it out there, we are perfectly placed for the next phase. I know Michael did say that, but we are. We've got the next section. You have the 50 miles north, of course, of Birmingham as well. So we're in a perfect opportunity to really do well on this project and then move on to the next phase. If you look at it, within high-speed rail, you could actually complete your career on high-speed rail, looking at the future prospects of HS2 and going up into the north, and, you know, so the opportunities are boundless there. So what are opportunities? So Michael did touch upon, of course, that we do offer a mentoring scheme. So, you know, this is led by existing veterans who will work for us. We would take the time to, to give you that exposure to our project, to give you exposure to the skills that you want to develop. So if you're leaving in 12 months time, or you've already left, there's a place for you to get that opportunity to work with our team and to get that time on site, or get that time in our office to develop those skills. But if we look at the actual roles that we're going to be looking to recruit for in the future, engineering staff. So there is a shortage in the market. We have to be honest. There is a shortage there. So, so if you've got experience with any type of engineering, there's going to be an option to be able to develop you, to get you as an engineer. Design managers. So of course we need to design and manage the coordination of our design on this project, delivering and designing temporary works. We need CAD technicians to support the actual design. We need quantity surveyors to make sure that we are commercially on track. We need procurement staff to procure all the materials. We need logistics managers to make sure that the 21 pieces of massive, huge earth moving plant are there on time, and they're also there delivered safely, and they're delivered safely in the right way. We need ecologists to make sure that we are protecting the environment and the communities that we're working with, and that we are looking at water courses. We are making sure that we aren't disturbing wildlife. So that you have that, you've got consents to make sure that we're actually allowed to put a spade in the ground. We need to make sure that we have the approvals to go forward and to actually work on the project. And then of course surveying. So if you're a royal engineer and you've got experience surveying, of course we need people for setting out. We need people who have moved significant amounts of earth. We need people who are just looking to land surveying is something they want to be a part of. So, but this isn't the be all and end all. We have opportunities everywhere. Everything this project is about innovating and really kind of developing the construction industry as a whole. So if you're interested, please get in touch with Caroline, and then she will then of course put you in touch with us, and then we can move forward from there and see what opportunities we have. I know we have a question section at the end, but that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ashley. That was excellent. And our military guys and girls watching this, you can eat this up for breakfast. You're more than capable of doing this work. So come forward and register any interest. Right, if we could pass to Michael Hanman, who's our next speaker, our veteran.
All right, and so I'll make a start. So I'm the logistics manager for sublot 2, which has been mentioned before. It's one of the 8 sublots. Runs from sort of what we call the River Blythe, which is just below the A45, the NEC area of Solihull, all the way down to Offchurch, Fossway, sort of a Leamington Spa area. So it's quite a long stretch, and it includes everything bar the tunnelling basically. But I won't go on too much about the project itself. Let's talk more about what I want to talk about is the actual transition from being in the forces to being in the civilian world, and the main point of my slides are basically what I wish I had when I left. Okay, so we'll make a start. So my background. So before you all leave the call, because you just found out I'm in the military police, give me a chance to explain myself. So yeah, I did. My career was 6 years in the Royal Military Police. Most of that was at 160 Provost Company in Aldershot. During my resettlement, I wanted to go into construction basically. I wasn't quite sure where or in what fashion, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I worked that out basically by doing several weeks of work experience on several different sites. I did a house building site and a commercial site. And after about 3 or 4 weeks each one, I realised that was what I wanted to do. I did that during my resettlement period, so that year after I'd signed off. And then I focused all of my efforts on courses that would just make me as employable as possible, knowing full well that I would come from the military police, not from the Royal Engineers or the RLC, and I didn't have a construction background before then, so I knew that I was basically starting from scratch. So I did NEBOSH General. I found that was a great course just for widening my horizons, and then I followed it up with the construction course as well. And then I used the LCAS scheme through resettlement to go to university in Birmingham, because I ticked the boxes. So the army paid for my tuition fees to go to university. I never thought I'd get the opportunity, and I went for it. So I did construction management at Birmingham City University, that's how I ended up in Birmingham. I didn't go to college, so I didn't have the sort of bridge between GCSEs and university. So really, it was a case of calling up the universities and saying what I'd been doing and would they be willing to take me on, almost as that sort of a mature student sort of role. And Birmingham City University were the first ones to say yes. So and I'd never been to Birmingham before. I'm from London originally, so it was a bit of a risk and a gamble. So I just went for it, and at the age of 24, I found myself living in university halls in the middle of Birmingham, and it was just like being back at the block on camp for Freshers Week, that sort of thing. It was good fun. But after that, I was a bit like, oh my God, I've made a right mistake here, living in halls with a bunch of 18-year-olds. But it worked out all right. My construction career started almost instantly, really. From the first few weeks at university, I realised that what they deemed to be a full-time course is more like 12 hours a week. So I contacted as many construction companies as I could, and was just asking for work experience, and Wilmot Dixon Construction were the first ones to get back to me. I went down there, met the site manager, the construction manager, and after that I did 2 or 3 days a week with them, just sort of work experience, volunteer, just for them to see what I was about, for me to see what they was about, and that developed into an assistant site manager role on 2 projects that they had at the University of Birmingham. And I got given more responsibility, more roles, was able to take on more work and really enjoyed it. And then I got offered a role after doing that for a couple of years whilst I was at university as well. I got offered a role working on HS2 with the early works contractor, the LMJV, which is Langs and Murphy, as their assistant logistics manager, which was, I took everything I'd learned from being with Wilmot Dixon, but if I'm entirely honest, it was the transferable skills that I'd learned in the military, and specifically the military police, that really helped to get me that role. The negotiation skills, the people management, and just being able to talk to people really is what I feel got me that role. I was only there for about 6 or 7 months, and then I went for the interview with Balfour Beatty Vinci as a logistics manager in September last year. Actually, the interview was probably August last year, and then I got offered the role to join in September last year, and I've been here since then. So quick run through of the qualifications. So obviously construction management, which ended up going to Birmingham City University for, NEBOSH, which I've already mentioned, SMSTS, which I have, which was quite an important course, first aid, mental health first aid as well, construction logistics practitioner, which is something I've gotten through HS2, crane supervisor was one I did with Wilmot Dixon, and then site access traffic marshal was another one I've gotten whilst being on HS2. So I think logistics manager on HS2 is very different to being a logistics manager elsewhere. That's what I've gathered from talking to other logistics managers and seeing other roles. HS2 is very, very bespoke. We've got our own legislation and what's called an environmental statement and environmental minimum requirements, but that govern how we have to do things. And because of the nature of the project, there's a lot of promises have been made during Parliament's stages in order for us to actually be here and construct that. And we are now the ones, Balfour Beatty Vinci and the other contractors are the ones that are held accountable for those ways of us building this. So that's why I believe a logistics manager on HS2 is slightly different. But the core role is the movement of material or people from one place to another. And then most importantly, it's got to be on time, safely, in the correct amount to the correct standard. And a lot of this comes back to the planning. So I do the writing of all of the construction logistics plans and then making sure that they get implemented on site. And then there's other points such as management of deliveries, including the forecasting. We have to forecast, 6 weeks in advance, a month in advance, 2 weeks down to a week, and the day before. The compliance of vehicles and drivers on the road, we're under massive scrutiny in the areas that we work. Not just my area, but up and down what we call the trace. People literally are out there taking photos of our vehicles. If they do something wrong, we have to make sure we're on the ball with that. And the safety of the HGVs on the road, which has got to be one of the most important points at the access point, on site, and on our own haul roads. Okay, so my team, I work with the Sublot 2 team mainly, but my interfaces are with the Sublot 1 logistics manager and the core logistics manager. So that's like my sort of logistics team that I work within at the moment. But the most interesting thing is that we're all ex-military. The Sublot 1 logistics manager comes from the Rifles. The core logistics manager at the moment, he's ex-Marines, but he's leaving. He's getting promoted, and someone else is filling his spot who is also ex-military. And what that enables us to do is we just have this sort of synergy between the three of us where we trust each other. And we know that if someone says they're going to do something, they can do it, and you can have a down-to-earth conversation with them, and you haven't got to worry about it. You know it's going to be done. But the difference is in the role. So although we are all logistics managers, Sublot 1 is all the tunnels. So all of his work is basically underground. He only has a couple of compounds in his area because obviously the work is underground. But these are massive compounds, massive operations on them, including slurry treatment plants. And he's got to think about where all the tunnel horizons are going to go, the routes on the site, that kind of thing. He came from Build Force, so I imagine we'll try and get him on one of these calls in the future. Myself, all my work is above ground, a lot more compounds because we have the space to do that, but it's all earthworks and structures. I've been in contact with Build Force for the last 3 years. I didn't come through Build Force for the role, but when I was at university, I did my dissertation on the skill shortage in the construction industry and about how people from the forces can be the answer to that skill shortage. And it's just about making people realise, and that's what's so great to hear people like Michael Dyke say, that he realises the benefits that people from the forces can bring to any company. And in the core logistics manager, he's our go-between. He's sort of he has oversight of Sublot 1 and Sublot 2. So if there's issues at the interface, that's who me and the Sublot 1 logistics manager will go to. The core logistics team are also responsible for basically logistics outside the gate. But like I say, the current one, he didn't come from Build Force, but he's ex-Marines. But the guy that's replacing him has come from Build Force. So coming to these sort of these talks, knowing people like Angela and Caroline, it's really, really important. As day in a life, so I really struggled with this slide putting it together because a day in a life it doesn't do it justice. Every single day is different. You never know what is going to happen. For example, today's been a bit of a crap one because last night I spent 2 hours watching a committee meeting for one of the local highway authorities discussing 2 of the consents that I've been working on for lorry routes, and it didn't go as planned. But you know, you've got to be able to pick yourself up and go again, and I think it's something that military personnel are great at, you know, because, you know, when you're getting ready to go home for the weekend on a Friday and you get told that you've got to work the weekend, how many times does that happen out of the blue and you've got no choice and you just crack on with it, you just get on with it. You know, that sort of be able to just pick yourself up, dust yourself off and go again is exactly what you need. And it does all links to productivity, like Michael said. But I have managed to get some points down. So like I said, every day is different. You know, the day will start with me generally. I'll look at the forecasts of what's coming in that day. I look at the numbers, and then because all the different teams in the area will be booking their deliveries for the sites. Each site is limited by the amount of deliveries it can have. You didn't need to look at it and say, right, if it's hitting that number, what do I need to cancel? What's the priority? What do we need to get in? Abnormal loads. If we have any abnormal loads, we tend to bring them in before 7 o'clock in the morning. So one of us for the 3 logistics manager would generally be there. Compliance is a massive thing on this project. It'd be a big thing on any project, but you're talking about the routes, any complaints that we've gotten, condition of the highways, if there's any mud on the highway, or general actual condition of the physical highway, if it's getting damaged at all, and what we need to do to rectify that. Planning, phasing, the practicality of everything, giving briefs to the workforces, like I said, documentations, the plans and the risk assessments, the method statements. Stakeholder engagement is massive on this project. I was reading some statistics. We've got something like over 3,000 stakeholders that we engage with, you know, and that they're just really important to everything that we do. We have to make sure that they're happy with what we're doing, that they're well informed, and it's also part of our undertakings and assurances that we make sure we do that on site. So management of the accesses where the HGVs are turning in and out of the compounds, site layouts, lay down areas, and our own in-haul roads and the crossings that cross the highways. Client meetings, so HS2, we have to be able to brief HS2 as well as the our own senior leadership, as well as the guys on the ground, the workforce. Team engagement, so for me, logistics really engages with every single team that we have in this business, whether it's noise monitoring, vibration monitoring, air pollution, the construction teams, traffic management team, the community team, UNA team, like I said, the stakeholder team. I mean, we talk to these people every single day. We really are, I feel like, one of the most important links in the business. And then obviously recruitment as well. We did an interview yesterday. Peter's going to come on the call. He's one of my bosses, and you know, we're looking to expand, and you have to be involved with the recruitment to make sure you're getting the right people. But all of this that I've mentioned is problem solving within a team, and that is basically what the armed forces, whether it's the Navy, the Air Force, or the Army, that is what you do. I mean, the army do it the best. We all know that, but they all solve problems, and that's exactly what you do in construction as well. So my tips, these are the tips that I wish someone had told me before when I was leaving, you know, and that is network as early as possible, whether you know you're getting out in a month's time, a year's time, or 2 years' time. Start making connections right now with people that you potentially want to be employed with, and find out what shortage they have, what skill shortage they have, and think, right, is that a job that I want to do? And if it is, have you got the qualifications for it? If you haven't, you've got a year's worth of resettlement and a big fund of money, whether it's LCAS or I can't remember what the other one's called, but the you know, the army is willing to pay for these courses for you to go away and do them. So you find out what the employer wants. Do you want to do it? Have you got it? Yes, go on in. That's your path. If not, go and do that course. And prioritize your resettlement. You only get that opportunity once. When I was leaving, there was a couple of people leaving at the same time, and they got dragged into work, you know, for the army, which I know you've still got an obligation to go and do. But at the end of the day, you are leaving the army. You need to look to your future and prioritize that. Think about yourself and life outside of the army, because you know, as brutal as it is, once you leave, they just carry on. The cogs keep on turning without you there. So you need to prioritize your resettlement. Remember, you only get that opportunity once. Have a plan and have a backup plan. It's all part of networking. Talk to multiple employers. Talk to multiple people that are already in the industry. And if something doesn't work out, you know, don't get too upset about it. Just move on. Get to your next option, and keep going and keep going. Be prepared to take a step back. So it depends really on what rank you are, what role you're doing at the moment in the forces, but be prepared that, you know, you may not, if you're an RSM, you may not be able to go into a business as an at that equivalent. You may have to take a couple of steps back, learn again, but I guarantee that within a year, that skill gap would have adjusted, and everything you were able to do in the army or the forces, you will be applying that in the real world. I mean, my example is that when I left and I was at university and I was doing the work experience for Wilmot Dixon, I had to go work at a Wetherspoons for 2 months, and it was the worst 2 months of my life, to be honest with you, but had to do it, and in the end it paid off. So LinkedIn, if you're not already on LinkedIn, please get on LinkedIn. It is a really good tool. It's not like other social media. It's a great way of speaking to employers direct, sending them messages and finding out, and generally people will respond to you, and it's a great way to avoid that CV sift. People get piles of CVs and they just go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and aren't looking at the detail. So get on LinkedIn and connect with as many veterans in the industry as possible. You know, it's something that you'll work out if you're not already a veteran, is that, you know, when you're in a civilian business and you meet another veteran, you're friends instantly, like that, you know. And it is almost like it's almost like the Illuminati. We're everywhere, and we always help each other out where we can, and you know, you can always trust on them. It's like a unspoken agreement between us all, you know. So just connect with as many as you can. People that you know previously that have left, get back in touch with them. And don't feel like you're restricted by your current trade. Like Ash has said, that the construction industry is extremely flexible. So, you know, if you see something that you like, and it's not what you're currently doing, don't be dismayed by that. Give it a go. If 5 years ago, when I was in the military police, if you told me I was going to be a logistics manager on HS2, I thought, not a chance, you know. So don't feel like you're restricted by your current trade, and work on translating your experiences that you've already had into value, and explain it in a way that civilians will understand. I guarantee that it's when you come to interview questions and someone asks you a tricky question about health and safety or something like that, and you'll think, oh, I don't have a clue, but I guarantee that there would have been stuff you would have done in the forces that relates directly to what they're talking about. You just need to work on how you explain that. And showcase the transferable soft skills that you've gained that will complement the technical skills you look to learn. The soft skills, I think, are really important. And honestly, use the ex-military card to your advantage. And what I mean by that is that when you're in the forces, it's almost cringeworthy to talk about being in the forces to people outside of the forces. You know, when you tell stories and you spin dits, and your mates take the mickey out of you. When you get out of the army or the forces, use it to your advantage. People love a story, you know, and they do look up to you being ex-forces. There's a certain reputation that comes with it, you know, being disciplined, having integrity, that kind of, think of sea drills, you know, courage, discipline, respect, you know, all those sort of things, and play on it, use it to your advantage, and it does work, I promise you. I think that's near enough it.
So thank you for that. And I think it was just warming to hear the extent of military presence in your team as well. So I was smiling away when you were sharing that. If I could ask Peter Rigby, our construction director, to join us. That was excellent, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, everyone. My name is Pete Rigby. I'm the construction director for what we call sublot 2A, and I'm giving you an overview of the engineering on BBV. Just give us 2 seconds whilst I share my slides. Is that just check that I've just got a message that the screen had frozen?
No, that's perfect, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Right then, just checking that's moved on to the next slide.
Yep, it's moved on.
Brilliant. Okay, so first of all, I thought I'd give a current review of the status of where we are in the in this construction. So we started the early contractor involvement phase back in 2017, and that ended when we got notice to commence for the main construction phase March last year. And we've been in the main construction phase now for the last 16 months. Having said that, we're still right at the very beginning of this. And one of the things I want the people to understand is that this job is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're not coming up, if you're not leaving the military just yet, then you won't be too late. So work's going on at the moment. We've got a joint venture called Lang Murphy, who've been undertaking the site clearance and ecological mitigation across the whole of the project. Certainly in my area, they're about 70% complete. What I mean by that is we've taken over about 70% of the land from Lang Murphy. Most of the areas I work on their Mainline, so it's a much more sort of rural area. So most of it still looks like a green field. Having said that, just a lot less trees and creepy crawlies in the area. We've got there's 5 years worth of heavy civils in front of us at the moment. We are undertaking installing our compounds, haul roads, temporary drainage, and we've just commenced the first phase of our permanent works, earthworks at the moment. At peak, then, as Michael said, we're going to have a workforce of about 9,000 and a staff at peak of about 2,500. On the sublot that I'm working on, we've currently got about a staff of about 70, and over the next 12 to 18 months, we'll be taking that up to about 190. And me personally, the single biggest challenge I've got is resourcing, because quite simply you can't do it without people. So a little bit of overview of it's what we class as a linear project. So most linear projects follow a similar sort of path. So as I said, we've coming out the back end of the enabling works now. We're in the preparatory stage. So the whole of this year is really all about setting up the this project on site to commence the works in anger beginning of next year. So the sort of works we're doing this year, setting up most of our main compounds, getting all the haul roads in so we can get as much traffic off the road network as possible, getting all our temporary drainage in place, and undertaking some key critical work in advance of the main work starting. General process for a linear project is you've got the line of the railway, or what we refer to as a trace, where that intersects roads, rivers or railways. Then we get a bridge over those or under them, get those bridges open, and that enables you then to commence a mass haul of earthworks, because there's no point excavating out for a cutting if you haven't got a place to put available to put the fill into embankment. and then finish that, top off with a drainage, and hand over to rail systems. So a little bit about the works that are being undertaken on BBV. So as Ashley mentioned, there's 3 distinct divisions within Balfour Beatty Vinci. So tunnelling division. So we've got 2 tunnels, 2 sets of twin bore tunnels, one at Itchington, which I interface with, and the photo in the middle is the launch area. So they took delivery of the TBM back into last year, and busy building it up with the intention of burying that in the side of the hill, sort of quarter 4 this year. That'll be there's 2 twin tunnels, about 1.6 kilometers long each, OD of about just shy of 10 meters with an internal diameter once it's lined of 8.8 meters. And then the other set of tunnels taking the spur underneath Bromford into Curzon Street. They're both a bit longer. They're 5.7 kilometers long with an internal diameter of about 7.5 meters. And the status of construction along Itchington is they've done the slurry treatment plants up is being commissioned, and the TBM's well advanced in its build. So the next major division is what we call the structures division. That is that's based in and around Birmingham. That's a much more built up area. So the proportional split between structures and earthworks is more towards the structures side. So you can see some of the viaducts they're building there on the slides. They've got about 700,000 cubic meters of concrete to construct in that area. There's about 11 kilometers of viaducts in total, and about 21,000 ton of structural steel. Any one of those viaducts on a normal project would be a major project in its own right. It's just BBV is on a scale all of its own. So I work on the other division is the mainline division. So if you look on the map on the right hand side, it is the main line. So more sort of rural area. So the proportional split between earthworks and structures is more towards the earthwork side. Having said that, then we still have major structures every 400 to 500 meters. And personally speaking, you get a very good balanced portfolio of work, heavy civils work in the mainline area. And that photo there is the M42 mast and box structure, which is being built offline and then jacked into position over the M42 during a closure. So what I thought I'd do is I work on sublot 2A, and I thought I'd take you through a little bit more of that, so you get an appreciation of what a typical mainline sublot is looking after. So yeah, so sublot 2A, it's got Leamington Spa on the west, Coventry on the east, and our head office is in Kenilworth. It's 12 kilometers long, concrete. There's about 120,000 cubic meters of it. In terms of excavation, there's about 6 million cube of excavation. Now, I spent several years working at Hinkley Point C, which, from what I understand, is the largest, the most expensive single structure built on the planet. Only topped by the space station, but that's not on the planet. And the amount of excavation there is about 6 to 7 million. So just within sublot 2A, we've got more excavation than that in its entirety, or similar. And then we've got about a couple million ton of imported aggregate. The sort of structures, even though it's a proportional split, is more towards the earthwork side. As I said, we've got major structures, quite a few major structures. So I've got a retained cutting about 1.4 kilometers long. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We're crossing 4 watercourses. So I've got 2 composite viaducts, that being a structural steel frame and concrete deck, and 2 viaducts on precast beams. Then we've got 14 overbridges where the trace intersects a road, and a box jack, and I'll talk a little bit more about the box jack in a minute, and then various underbridges. and several tens of kilometres. For a rail job, we've got more than 15 kilometres of roads to construct as well. So like I said, very balanced portfolio of work. So one of the structures we've got is the A46 across the A46 road. It's a currently three lanes each way. Most of the time, when you have a rail line or something like that intersecting with an existing road, you tend to build a bridge offline, embankment either side, and flick the old road over the new bridge and then drive underneath or over the top. With the A46, the geometry doesn't work, so we're having to look at building a bridge in situ with a horrendous amount of traffic management and delays for everyone. So what we've chosen to do is build a large box structure offline, and then over a long weekend, jack that into position. So I'll just press play on this simulation. I'll talk you through it a little bit as we go. So you can just see the A46 in the background. So what we're starting Q3 this year is we've got about 110,000 cubic meters of earthworks to excavate, and that's going straight into road embankment just next door to it. We're commencing the construction of the jacking slab this year, and that'll take us through the winter to produce that. And then we've got and then starting the middle of next year, we'll be building a box structure. Now, if you look at the shape of the box structure, then that is about 60 meters long, about 40 meters wide, and about 12 meters deep. And the reason why it's got sloping sides is because we've got to excavate out about 20,000 cubic meters of material out of that off the road to get that through. And if you had vertical sides on it, you'd have to excavate even more. And the most of the time it takes to jack this over the road is in the excavation and backfill. So that's why it's that shape. So we're actually using a system called auto repage. So I've put various bridges in place using the SBMTs, but I've never jacked one into place and floated it on a bed of bentonite. So I'm quite looking forward to that. Yeah, jack it into place, road back on top, and reopen the road. So one of the other structures is Longhole Viaduct at the south end of sublot 2A, 170 meters long. That one is a viaduct we're having a launch because it goes over the top of the Grand Union Canal, and we're not allowed to build that one in situ. So we're building it offline and then jacking that over the canal. This is off church cutting. So this is right next to Grand Union Canal. And it's one of the it is the largest cutting on the entire project, about 1.3 million cube, and about 18 total dig is about 19 meters deep at its deepest, with 3 bridges over the top. So this is one of the areas where we've commenced work about a month ago, and there's a little bit more detailed slide here, so you can see where my mouse is. So this is the off-church cut-in Grand Union Canal embankment. This is where the Longhole Viaduct is, and just off to the right is the Longhole Tunnel portal, where we're installing a 350 metre long conveyor to take all the risers out of that tunnel and put them into landscape embankment. And this video is a couple of weeks ago. So due to the scale of the projects and the fact that we've got reasonably short hauls, we've taken 2 fleets of motor scrapers in from Vinci and putting them to work. And to my knowledge, we haven't used motor scrapers in a construction environment since the 90s. So it's good to see them going again. So yeah, they're just doing a topsoil strip there. So there's a couple of weeks ago, so they're a good 1.5 meters deeper now. And the dozer there's a D10, which is an absolute beast. And one of the other structures I mentioned was Stoneleigh Park retaining wall. So there happens to be the line of the trace. There's a natural low point on that as it follows the train of the ground. Unfortunately, that low point happens to intersect with this running parallel to the River Avon, and it also goes through quite a popular events showground. So all of that culminates in the fact that we're building that in a retained cutting, which is essentially a giant reinforced concrete bathtub to keep the groundwater out and reduce the footprint. There's also 3 top-down constructed bridges over the top of it, which one of them we class as a green over bridge because there's another 10 to 15 meters width on it that's greened over to allow the wildlife to get across a trace. And we've got one of those green over bridges every 3 to 4 kilometers along the route. So that's a sort of the overview of the type of construction that we're undertaking. So I'll take a little bit of time just to talk about sort of mentoring and work experience. So myself, I'm acting as a mentor, and the sort of things that we try and help with is give people an understanding, sort of one-to-one, of the opportunities that are out there, and by taking the time to get to know people a little bit, exploring what potential roles may best suit them. As Mike mentioned earlier, advice on training, and also to understand that whatever role you take once you leave the military, you're not set into that role for the rest of your working life, and that it will evolve. And then one of the things that we offer is up to 20 days work experience, and I've got some people booked in for that. Between sort of they're doing between a fortnight and 3 weeks, but before that, then what I personally do is I give them the opportunity for a familiarisation visit for a day. So we organise for them to come and speak to various people within the team, so we can better really understand what it is that that person wants to get out of their work experience, and then we can tailor that work experience around them. So that they're able to get the most out of it. And I know it's been plugged a few times on this call, but this really is an opportunity to be part of a once-in-a-lifetime project. And I'm no different to anyone else, and that's why I'm here on this project. Okay, and that is the end of my presentation.
Peter, that was absolutely incredible. That is proper engineering and construction at its best. I absolutely loved that. If I could, and I've got lots of questions as well, which we'll pick up in the Q&A. And if I could pass to Phil Bradley, please. Thank you, Peter. That was incredible.
Good morning.
Hi, Phil.
It's all right. And just get my PowerPoint show up and running. Excellent. Right, as I said, my name's Phil Bradley. I'm stores manager. What I'm going to go through today is journey to my current role, the journey points, current role itself, my learning points to leaving the military itself. So, journey to my current role, completed 20.5 years in the Royal Engineers in June 20 last year. I actually engaged with Balfour in May 19, which is probably the last year of my resettlement itself, which is probably a mistake on my behalf. First form of civilian employment I actually had with a small military, small house building construction company. Re-engaged with Balfour in October 20 last year. Then December 20, carried out my first interview with Balfour Beatty, Vinci, and then departed my first employment December 20. I then was successful and went to second interview by Balfour Beatty, Vinci, and 8th of March I joined the project. Obviously you can see me made nice lovely oranges on the bottom right. And on the 8th of June, recently, I've completed my 3-month probation and actually loving the job itself. So my journey points to where I've actually come from and where we're at the moment. The good bits and the bad parts. Departing the military, I probably chose the worst part in history to leave the military. Because last year, obviously leaving the military June 20, pre-COVID, I had a couple of jobs all set up, all lined, job offers then and ready to go. COVID hit, those job offers disappeared. Military, being the military, said, yeah, don't worry about it. What we'll do, we'll offer you an extension and square you away, so it gives you a bit of time to look for a job prior to leaving. Luckily, that never materialised, and I was still left there thinking, what am I going to do? I engaged with Caroline with Balfour, and at the time, obviously, we've been backwards and forwards since May, and explained the situation that it was where I was, and I wanted a job role based where I needed, where I was living at the moment. Luckily, they found a local job that came up, my first role from leaving the military. I took that on and moved on from there. But the engagement with Balfour never stopped. They contacted me in October 20, said, how's your job going? How's everything going? Are we sorted? Are you enjoying it on the rest? Once I obviously explained that the role itself wasn't as advertised and it wasn't great, they then helped me to push my CV back out again. Helped me on weekends, chatting through stuff, helping me through education, putting me through contacts with other personnel, other companies such as Jacobs and places like that, and they got me in line, and then which then moved on to my job role coming through with Balfour Beatty Vinci itself. I literally got offered the role with Balfour Beatty, had the job interview, and when the job interview came through, it's actually for an aggregates role at the time. So I spent some time with Angela, who's on the call. We spent about 3 hours, I think, going through the actual job itself, preparing the interview, got myself all sorted for the interview. The day of the interview, sat down with the interviewers who going through it, who did the normal going through what the job is, explaining it for, and then all of a sudden he suddenly stopped. He says, this aggregates role is good, it's good for you, but I think you've got more better skills that you can offer for us. I see that you used to be do supply chain and logistics, got a supply chain job role. Is that something you're interested in? I said, yeah, I'll take that job role. So I went for that. Second interview came along, and this time it's for the supply chain manager role that I'm in now. So literally did loads of more rehearsing with Angela for the interview itself, did the interview, passed the interview, and I offered the role to start with. It took a little bit of time because the role itself was a new role. I had to wait for the role to be created, but it is worth the wait. I've actually moved into the role here, finished preparation, and it's like being back in the military, some of the banter we have, so it's a good working team, and it's highly recommended. I really enjoy coming to work, mix of a team, bit of banter, and actually getting the work done itself. So my current role, I'm actually a project stores manager, as said, and I'm actually was employed to harmonise all the stores requirements across 7 sublots, which is detailed on the actual screen itself. It's looking at, while there's 7 sublots across, there's actually 13 different sites that have stores on them. So my role is to go through those stores and make sure how they work, the policies they work to, and get them all working together. So the current role it includes is evaluating what the current situation is, and it's still going. Everyday things are slightly different. Someone's doing something different on the side, so it's constantly evaluating it, highlighting the areas of improvement, advising works managers on a setup of stores, writing job descriptions for store personnel that they employ, looking at innovations such as PPE vending machines, return stores, software such as CRISP, and other options that the innovation team are looking at to. Do presenting solutions to senior leadership teams, carrying out constant site store visits, and work out item usage and stock holding for these stores, working together with them. I'm not being all and end all. I don't know every item that we need, but working together with all these different people to work out what they need to hold. My day-to-day varies with these items on the rolls. I can come in 1 minute, I'll be talking about PPE because that's what everybody thinks stores are for. But the next thing is then visiting sites, find out what they're doing wrong, or what they need advice on, or what they're doing right, and helping advise them themselves. So day to day, it actually varies itself. One big thing I found, obviously moving into the role with HS2, is the key transferable skills that half the time we don't actually, ex-military don't take for granted and don't actually publicise it so well. So things on here we've got itself is communication, being able to communicate to people in a proper lifelike manner. Stakeholder engagement, being able to speak to all the different parties, suppliers, contractors and people like that. IT skills, everybody takes it for granted that people can use computers. There's a lot of people out there that can't use computers. So something that is a key skill that we in the military used to use a lot of computers, a lot of different software itself. Being able to do presentation skills, being able to do presentations to the senior leadership teams as and when required. Organizational abilities, getting the job done, is working around how do we get the job done itself and going from there. Can-do attitude ties into that quite easily. Can we do it? If we can't do it, we often, ex-military will think outside of the box to get the job done itself. And then project management, being able to project manage an area of the job itself to see what can be done and go from there. My leaving points to leaving the military is quite varied because it was the wrong time, like I said before, wrong time leaving the military. So the first thing I found was a problem that I took a while to get over was the CV itself. Spending time CV. CTP and other people will teach you how to lay your CV out, but I found this hard to try and get my skills across there. It wasn't until obviously sat down with Caroline and her team on a few of her events, be able to change that and get it working. Now, the thing I find is CVs are down to each individual person itself. You could draft it, use all these wonderful experts that say they're experts at CVs. My template got ripped apart by these so-called experts, but then I got offered 6 roles with this same CV, including the one I'm at now. So sometimes it's down to your own personal perspective to what you think is the best way to do. Next biggest key one, and I'm seeing it still speaking to military people at the moment, is planning. You need to be able to plan leaving the military. That's it, you are ending your career. And when you plan to leave the military, you need to come up with a civil plan that both yourselves and the chain of command agree with. I did this as soon as I had 2 years left to do. I sat down with my management. I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I do. And put it all out. He said, as long as I get a monthly update and it's on that plan, I don't care. I know someone who's leaving in September and has done no resettlement so far. It's absolutely ridiculous. You're leaving the military. Your time is done. You need to plan for moving on, prepare yourself for the new journey. Take the opportunity. You've got to, sometimes for those that are coming to the end of your career, you've got 2 years to go. Sometimes you'll have a year. That time will fly by. You need to plan it correctly. That leads greatly onto the mindset itself. A lot of people will go, yeah, I'm leaving the military, but then carrying with normal work. Work has to be done. You're still being employed by the military, but you need to focus. You need to get your mindset in. You're leaving the military itself, moving on to new challenges, new careers. Biggest one I found when leaving was work attachments. I said before, I didn't engage with Build Force when I had a year left. And due to welfare reasons, I didn't actually do work attachments, and it's the biggest mistake I've made. If I'd done a work attachment with my first employment, I would have found it wasn't a suitable role itself and would have been able to understand and get a better fit. Work attachments, I know it's been harped on several times on this call, but they are key. Get the time programmed in, get work attachments. Work attachments here, we've got a few apprentices currently here at the moment. They're loving the attachments they're doing. So take advantage of doing the work attachments itself. Next one, get is funding. Use all the available funding you get in the military to get any qualifications. You've got learning credits and things like that. Use everything there. I know plenty of people that don't use them and wish they had done now. And then best of all is the qualification itself. Military offers a lot of qualifications when you leave. You can do that. But the biggest thing you're learning, especially joining Balfour Beatty, Vinci, is when I've got here, they've got a great academy. All they asked for is that I had a CSCS card, which is essential for construction. But moving into the academy itself, they offer loads of qualifications. They can either enhance you as yourself or your role and support you for moving forward in your career. So Balfour Beatty is great with their academy, and they also offer, if you do certain qualifications, there's offer bonuses for getting certain qualifications as well. So it's really good atmosphere to working with. Engage early. Again, like I said before, I didn't engage early with Balfour, so I wish I had done, because my last role left us feeling disillusioned with the construction industry. But when I spoke to Caroline and her team, got us back onto industry, and I'm enjoying my role now in here. Then it goes back onto Balfour itself. They've been integral to me getting into the construction industry. In the Royal Engineers, I used to be logistics and supply chain. We used to build things up, blow things up, do construction projects all around the world. So I thought that was a key area for me to get into, and that's why once I found out about Buildforce, move forward with them, and they absolutely helped in every which way they can. Now, their help is not just getting a role. I found their help is not just getting the role itself, but phoning up 3 months down the line. Are you enjoying the role? Is there anything we can help you with? How's everything's going? And it's also, I found they're there anytime you need it. If there's anything going wrong or anything you just want to chat about, they're there for mental help as well, I found. So it's good offer support they hold. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be sat in this role, enjoying the role I do at the moment, because I don't think I would have been here after my experience from my previous company. I didn't like construction and wanted to move away from it. But luckily, Caroline convinced me, no, I think it's key for you. There's key roles to do. So that's why I'm here today, working with Balfour Beatty Vinci and enjoying it. It's a great company to work with on one of the biggest projects. And I'm always here if anybody ever wants to chat. My contact details are there. I've got my LinkedIn on there. I'm always willing to help any veterans. I've had quite a few message me in the past, and I've helped them out to come forward. And again, all I can say is work with Balfour, and if you can get on HS2, it is a great project working with Balfour Beatty JV. That's everything from myself.
Well, that was incredible. You are such an ambassador, and we wholeheartedly thank you for that. If I could ask all our speakers to put their cameras back on. If anybody does have a question, just raise their hand or type it in the comments box. I'll quickly jump into a few questions that I've got. I think, could I actually also ask Shilpi if she's able to join us as well, if she's there? So Shilpi's the Skills, Employment and Education Manager that Michael referenced, and a great ambassador for bringing in the military into BBV, and we thank you for that, Shilpi. For the military community that are watching this, and they've got various sectors that they're toying with, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Angela, and thank you to my colleagues on the call and for you for putting this in place. It's absolutely fantastic to be here today. Right, so what advice I'd give individuals? Well, first and foremost, I think what has been said by colleagues who we've now employed, thankfully, is number one, plan ahead, talk to us. Come and talk to Balfour Beatty Vinci. I think today we've done a fantastic job of saying why you should think about Balfour Beatty Vinci as one of the contractors on this project. And what I would say also is, you know, talk to Buildforce, talk to us. Buildforce will connect you right into the heart of Balfour Beatty Vinci. And we will connect you to great managers and directors such as Peter and other members of the team. And what we want you to do is think about all of the skills that you've got. Think about, and we will help you chart your way through and take advantage of things like Phil just talked about, work attachments, work placements. Really take advantage of what we're putting on the table to actually help that transition. And we will support in alliance with Buildforce, support you to map out. If you think Balfour Beatty Vinci can offer you something, we will make sure that we try our best to find the best fit for you. So think about transferable skills, get in good shape so that when you walk through that door, you feel you're putting your best foot forward, but we will support you on that journey. So everything is here for the taking, as far as we're concerned. We're very committed to the military, and I hope Angela and Caroline feel to Buildforce as well as that enabling partner. And I think this is about collaboration. This is about really highlighting your potential, your opportunity, and looking at the best fit we can get you on this project.
Thank you, Shilpi. I think being so pro-military, having a safe environment and that soft landing is a huge draw for the armed forces community. So, and Balfour Beatty have been tried and tested, and it's definitely one of the best ones. A question to Ashley, the CV, this initial interaction, probably the question that you'd ask most. Do they demilitarise a CV? What does a brilliant CV look like? What advice would you, and I know it's a hard question, so sorry about that, but what advice would you give?
Well, it's interesting from what Philip said around how he went to numerous CV doctors, clinics, whatever you want to call them, and they ripped us apart. But of course, it was picked up by ourselves and via alternative recruiters. Seeing that, I find that you do have a lot of experience and a lot of information to give. So in the past, we've had CVs, of course, that are 5 to 12 pages long in some circumstances, but it's difficult to nail that experience down. I would say, again, it's kind of, well, mirroring what Shilpi would say, is that utilize ourselves, utilize Buildforce to actually understand what we're looking for and what does look good. I think for us is we want to know key skills. We want to know the fundamentals of the foundations of yourself. But getting that across is hard. So utilizing Buildforce to help you guide you to get to where to get your CV looking that way is vital. I don't know. I've also got my head of resourcing, Alison Westwood, on the line as well. I don't know what your thoughts are on that as well, Alison.
I would echo that. I think it's about looking at where your transferable skills are, and the big thing I always say about CVs is the so what. So if you put something down on that CV, why would it be interesting to somebody? What did you actually achieve? What were the achievements from it? I think that's always absolutely key. And just try to avoid, if you can, anything that won't mean something to somebody that's not in the military. So avoid abbreviations and avoid things that, as I say, will only mean something that understands that. And really do think about those transferable skills, because you've got loads of them. You've just heard from 2 people who I think are shining examples of how they've thought about those transferable skills and where they will land. Great ambassadors.
Thank you. Thank you, Alison. And a question for Peter. Peter, we hear from so many of our veterans that praise you in terms of your line management and the time and focus that you spend with them. So for that, we thank you. But what reassurance could you give a veteran, or what reassurance do you give a veteran on day one of them starting a new role, and what does that ongoing coaching look like?
So yeah, I was that's a handy question, because I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So one of the things we've talked about, how massive and amazing BBV is, but one of the things I wanted to get across to people was it is a large organisation, a very, very large project, but you won't just be a number. So the way we've broken a project, certainly in the area I'm looking after, the way we've broken that down is into smaller geographic teams. So they're all sort of semi-autonomous units in their own right. So led by a team leader. So you get to know the people that you're working with, and they'll be pretty reasonably static in terms of who you're interacting with. Or you might end up being the team leader. So certainly the way we work is bring people in. We everyone that starts, BBV is a bit of a monster to get your head around. So we recognise that you're not going to know everything about the project straight away. It took me 6 months to get my feet under the table. So we buddy people up, and we have regular reviews to make sure that what they thought they're getting into is what they're getting out of it. Because you need, the team's gonna work well, then they need to feel sort of valued and challenged and supported.
Okay, and just on that, it's obviously long days, an incredibly complex project. How do you unwind? How do you look after your well-being and mental health, as Michael referenced at the start?
Okay, how I do that, I've got a couple ways. Most days I'll do some form of sport, whether it's cycling in or going to the gym or getting up early and go swimming before work. My hobby is motorbikes, so if I'm allowed to at the weekend, then I'll get out my bike, and then the odd track day, that sort of thing. And then I work away during the week, so my evenings are sort of dead time in some respect. So what I tend to do is I'm always doing some sort of course at a local college. So at the moment I'm teaching myself to weld, or getting taught to weld, because I thought, why not? And then weekends are spent with my family.
Okay, and you get a lot of solace from that. It helps with the spirit and the soul, doesn't it? And thank you for that, Peter. And a question for Michael. So, Michael, the greatest parallels between the armed forces and your current role? I know Phil mentioned banter and getting the job done. What parallels do you see?
But the greatest parallels, and this is something I mentioned in my dissertation earlier on. I had a whole section on this about the parallels, and it's everyone in the army is used to being outside in the cold at silly time in the morning, but with a team, and you always get the work done, and somehow you have fun doing that at the same time, you know, and you always look back on it and you're glad that you did it, and that's probably the worst example, because it sounds like you're out in the cold and you're miserable, but you're able to work in that environment. Then when it's summer and you're doing it in the brilliant sunshine, it's even better, you know. Other than that, is working in a team, like with a can-do attitude team, is probably one of the greatest parallels. And problem solving, just constantly solving problems. That's another great parallel as well.
Okay, no, thank you for that. And Philip, you obviously shared your journey and through the kind of the bumps that you've had along the way. What mentally did you tell yourself to get through that? How did you just muster the belief to keep going and to know that construction was right for you?
I think it's one of those things that in the military I've been doing a lot of construction logistics and supply chain. So I thought that's the route I still want to stay into. And with the bumps there, had a bumps, and I think me and Caroline had a few messages, a few chats to try and help me through it, because my first role, I was proper, it just went all downhill from there. I was not respected on my opinions, micromanaged, and I actually left the role, and 4 months later it collapsed. I mean, 4 weeks later it collapsed, so I was glad I was out of it, but I totally disillusioned with construction. I think there's a long chat with Caroline when I was sat in the car on the car park. That's how I got me thinking, hold on, I can do this. I need to focus. What can I do? And that's what kept me going, thinking, I've got to help my family. I've got to support. I've been doing construction before. Let's go for it, and just kept going and plodding through it each day.
So it's communication, it's just sharing that. Yeah, that's what gets you through those bad days. And what do you most love about BBV?
I think it's just the teamwork, and it's the banter, and it's the support as well. It's actual sport. A few people on LinkedIn will probably know things have been happening with me, and I've get random HR people from Balfour, Beatty, Vinci messaging me and offering support as well. So it's like being in the family. It's like being in the military. Sometimes it's got that family environment to it. Sometimes you can be sat at your desk and people say things like, "Oh, right, yeah." And it's good things like that I think keeps you going, and it shows that it's a good company to work for, that you actually feel part of a family.
Okay, no, that's a lovely sentiment. Does anybody have any final comments? I'm trying to keep to time, but I'm desperate to continue and keep asking questions. I'm getting Caroline glaring at me.
Only one
Peter,
thing I wanted to mention is on the type of roles we're looking for. Then supervision is a major one as well.
Okay, and the military guys at all ranks have that in absolute abundance. So I think probably even if you're toying, even if this is whet the appetite, you get in touch, we'll set up a conversation and you explore it further. But do scratch that itch if this is of interest, and let BBV wow you in every way, shape and form. Okay, could I pass back to Caroline just to close, and thank you everyone, really appreciate that.
Sure, thanks, Angela, and thank you to my speakers. That was fantastic, and Pete especially. Sorry to single Pete out, but the focus there on the engineering perspective was brilliant. And I know Ash commented that there's a skills shortage. I think after that, our military engineers are going to come in twice-folds in mounts. So brilliant. I'm just going to say our next event is on the 8th of July, Design and Quality Career Chat with Taylor Woodrow Vinci and Lendley. So that's one not to be missed. And also just to bring back to BBV, I am here for you. I am the main connection for all of our HS2 JVs. BBV are doing great work. Those roles really are ramping up now, that there's a lot going on. So just get in touch. Even if you're not sure what you want to do, get in touch, and like Pete or someone else within the business, we can connect you to a mentor who can guide you. And maybe it's about upskilling. You know, we can talk to Shilpi about upskilling if it's a different route that you want to go and you're not sure, then just get in touch, just talk. And as Phil said, we are always here to talk. Once you've transitioned, that transition isn't over, and we're always here still to support. So have a lovely day. The sun is okay. It's trying to come out. Hopefully it's sunnier where you are. And yeah, keep in touch. And thank you all, as always. Brilliant event. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.